I love Scooby-Doo, so much so that I have a bunch of legally pirated episodes of Scooby-Doo Where Are You on CDs somewhere. The world of Scooby-Doo is endless and full of fun, cheeky, spooky mysteries. It doesn't matter if your brain is hyper-intelligent, or if it's a pile of empty mush filling the space inside a thick, dense skull, Scooby-Doo is something that everyone can enjoy. But there's more to Scooby-Doo than just the endless world of movies and TV shows. There's also the endless world of Scooby-Doo video games, which isn't quite as endless as the endless world of Scooby-Doo movies and TV shows, but it's still pretty endless. Of this endless treasure trove of Scooby-Doo games, I've only played 2, and I liked them for what they were. But I have wondered what else is out there. One of the Scooby-Doo games that I haven't played was actually recommended to me by a total stranger, and that game is Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights. I have no idea what this is beyond the fact that it's Scooby-Doo, which is perfect. I get to solve my very own Scooby-Doo mystery. It's a dream come true. But will this game be a dream come true? Let's solve the mystery and get stuck into the Night of 100 Frights. The game begins with a disgusting recreation of the intro to Scooby-Doo Where Are You and kicks off with a regular cutscene. Daphne's friend, Holly, aware of Mystery Inc.'s many escapades as professional trespassers, asks them to deal with some strange things going on at her family home. Although it's less of a home, and more of an entire harbour town. Holly's uncle, a famous inventor, has disappeared. It's a shame that there aren't inventors anymore. Now they're all soulless, cookie-cutter entrepreneurs founding startups that make machines that can untoast bread, and their companies have stupid names like Flooble or Wemba. What happened to good old-fashioned mad scientist nutjobs making crazy shit in their basements? Well, this one, Alexander Graham, has disappeared, and no one wants to help Holly search for him because the place is haunted. Who'd have thought that a place called Mystic Manor could be so spooky? As is par for the course in this universe, it's up to Scooby and the gang to meddle in the affairs of strangers and figure out what's going on. After being separated from the others in classic Mystery Inc. fashion, Scooby-Doo ends up all alone and has to use whatever wits and abilities he has to find the gang and solve the mystery as much as he doesn't want to. And so we gain control of Scoobit Doobit and are given absolutely no direction whatsoever. A bold choice, I feel. We're plonked into this hub area that branches off into other areas, but we aren't told where to go or even what our goal is, which is odd. Normally a game like this would at least guide you a little bit. With this, we're completely on our own, so I thought, fuck it, I'll just go into the mansion. I need 25 Scooby snacks to unlock the gate thing that's in the way of the door. That didn't seem to be an issue for Fred, Daphne and Velma when they went in, but it's all good. I managed to find enough snacks in this hub area to get in. Once inside, after a bit of aimless wandering around, I open a door to find Holly, who reveals that someone called the Mastermind is behind her uncle's disappearance. She gives me a map and sends me on my merry way. I try to make it further into the manor, only to be told that I don't have the ability to break through spiderwebs right now and will have to come back later. This was the moment where it hit me. This blocked off passage and the existence of a map? That can only mean that Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights is a Metroidvania. For the uninitiated, unaware, and or stupid, a Metroidvania is a style of platformer or action-adventure game where you explore non-linear worlds in search of particular items and abilities to access new areas and eventually complete the main objective, whatever that may be. Night of 100 Frights is one of those. It's a non-linear platformer that involves exactly that, exploring accessible areas in search of items and abilities to make currently inaccessible areas accessible. I'm generally a fan of Metroidvanias, not that I play them too often, but when I do, I generally have a good time. I like having to figure things out and connect the dots. It usually feels very rewarding, and I was looking forward to seeing Scooby-Doo give it a crack. Right now, I can't break these spiderwebs, so I'm going to have to leave the manor and come back when I can do that. I left the manor and headed for the fishing village since that was accessible. After making it through some simple platforming sections and a puzzle with Shaggy, I found the springs which allow Scooby to perform a double jump. That's not going to help with the spiderwebs, but there was a key in the hub area that I couldn't reach before because it was too high. Now I can grab that and head into a new area. The docks were also covered in this black sludge that Scooby couldn't jump on, so once I have an item or an ability that will help him deal with that, I can come back and explore those new areas. You see how it starts to all fit together? As far as Metroidvanias go, Night of 100 Frights has a pretty standard structure. I'm not an expert in the genre, but it feels like it ticks all the boxes. But even though I know how the genre works, I still had the feeling that the game lacked direction. I get that that's the point of a Metroidvania, you're supposed to be somewhat lost and confused and have to figure it out on your own. But at least you know what the goal is, you have a vague idea of what you're supposed to do at any given moment. For a lot of Night of 100 Frights, I genuinely had no idea what I was meant to be doing and where I was supposed to be going. It wasn't until a few hours in when I found the tutorial area. They didn't think to maybe direct me there first, before I started doing shit. It's like assembling a piece of IKEA furniture and then halfway through, finding the instructions. I was mildly confused for what felt like the whole time. I understood the layout of the map and where I couldn't go, but I didn't know what the goal was. You're supposed to rescue the gang, but there are no clues or hints or anything that tells you where they are. You're just completely in the dark, and that made me second guess everything. Can I go here yet? Should I go here yet? Where can I find the item that will help me get through this? Would it be in this area? Or maybe in a different area? Is there even an item for this at all? Where am I? Where am I supposed to be? How do I get back to where I was before? Should I go back to where I was before? What if there's something else this way? But what if I don't have the thing I need to go this way? Am I even supposed to go this way? Where am I supposed to be? What's the goal here? What's my objective? Who am I? Who are you? What's this? What day is it? Is this a dream? There's so much that you could do, but no signs to say that you should. This is partly why I didn't enjoy the beginning of the game. Just a little bit of a push in the right direction would have made a world of difference. Something like, Ruh-roh, Rama's Rinra-Ranshin, Rhyreed Ra-Ra-Rinra, and Rara would have been perfect. It tells me what I should be doing and where I should be going, but not how to do it. Metroidvanias, in my opinion, are about figuring out the how, not the what or the where. With a little tip like that, it would have made everything more enjoyable. Instead, I spent the beginning of the game wandering around almost aimlessly, not knowing what I was even looking for to start with. It didn't feel rewarding or satisfying when I made progress, because I didn't even know that I was making progress. I also didn't enjoy the beginning of the game because the gameplay itself was, admittedly, quite boring. It is a platformer and I do like platformers. I like jumping around and avoiding obstacles and such. But this game, especially in the early game, is literally just jumping around. In the beginning, Scooby only has a single jump and that's basically it. He can't defend himself, he can't really do anything until you start gaining abilities. But even then, the first ability you gain is the ability to double jump, so you're just jumping around twice as much. There are also quite a lot of enemies spammed throughout every level, which you can also just jump past. It does get slightly better the further in you go with some more involved level design as Scooby gains some new attacks and abilities, but most of the game is just jumping around in the dullest way you can imagine. It feels like Hopscotch the video game. The level design is generally quite boring and uninteresting, and it's not particularly challenging either. Even with all the abilities you could possibly have, it doesn't get much better. Or maybe that's not even true. Maybe it just feels that way because you have to retrace your steps so often, even if you use the warp points. Again, retracing your steps is part of the Metroidvania experience, but it doesn't feel good to do in this game. The levels aren't fun to explore, they're really dull and one note, so to have to go through them multiple times really strips you of your will to live. And when you finally do uncover a new area because you unlocked a new ability, it's like, great, a new area! Look at all the new basic jumping I get to do! Not all areas in the game are like this, there are brief sections where something interesting will happen, but most of the time the levels are really underwhelming, and having to backtrack through them highlights just how boring they are. Usually in a Metroidvania, you'll have a good reason to backtrack, like you've got a new power that can open up a new area or a secret you found before but couldn't interact with. That kind of stuff I like, and Night of 100 Frights does do that. But a lot of the time my progress was only hampered by snack gates. Across the game you'll find Scooby snacks, loads of them, and to open up snack gates you need a certain amount of snacks to pay the toll. At the beginning of the game these are reasonable amounts, but the further in you get, the more ridiculous they get, increasing up into the late hundreds. There were multiple times where I was making progress and heading towards rescuing a Mystery Inc. member, only to be stopped because I didn't have enough Scooby snacks. A lot of my time spent in this game was just wandering around aimlessly looking for Scooby snacks that I missed because I didn't have enough to open the gate. So I'm going back through these shithole levels over and over again just to look for more snacks. That's not a good reason to backtrack, it doesn't add anything to the gameplay, it just interrupts its flow. It's not satisfying when you reach the total and are allowed in, it just makes you wonder, well, what the fuck was that for? What was the gameplay reason for stopping me there and forcing me to go back to collect more snacks? I already had to find a new ability to get to this area in the first place. What's the point of blocking me with snack gates? To drag out the playtime? I'd been through all those levels before. I don't mind having to look for a new item or ability, but a basic collectible like a Scooby snack? It's so unnecessary, and contextually, it doesn't even make sense. Why are the gates here? What's the in-world reason for them? And it's not like whatever is behind the gate will be worth the effort. It will either be more of the same lame-ass level design, or one of the dullest boss fights you'll ever see in your life. The bosses in this game are absolutely pathetic. Some of the worst boss fights I've ever seen, and I've seen some shitty boss fights in my time. They're extremely easy, uneventful, and a waste of time. What would have made it all more enjoyable was if this game was coded in that signature Scooby-Doo charm. The other Scooby-Doo games I've played have managed to capture the essence of Scooby-Doo. The cheesy jokes, the laugh track, the visuals and music, and of course the story. It wasn't perfect, but they felt like Scooby-Doo. It felt like a playable Scooby-Doo episode. But Night of 100 Frights really doesn't hit those same notes. The story premise is classic Scooby-Doo, but the rest? Nah. It doesn't really look like Scooby-Doo. Sure, the locations are spooky, but they don't really feel like anything. They're very generic places, all made from the same grey, brown and green colour scheme. A lot of areas and locations feel the same, and at the same time don't really feel like anything. The music does sound like Scooby-Doo, and I do like the songs that play here, but they don't sound like they were made for the game. The game only has about 5 or 6 songs that play in rotation, and most of the time, they do not match the setting. If you're in a pirate shipwreck level, you don't expect to be hearing chilled out lounge jazz, but that's what you get in this game. The only exception is the boss music, which literally has cheesy lyrics about the boss you're fighting against, but they also don't really match the setting of a battle against a ghost. What the presentation feels like overall is a mishmash of things that sound like Scooby-Doo, playing over the top of generic spooky locations with villains from Mystery Inc.'s past shoehorned in, with the most bare-bones story you can imagine for a piece of Scooby-Doo media. Alright, I may be taking this a bit too seriously, it's not that bad, it's presented decently enough, but it still does feel a little bit half-assed. Half-assed honestly does sum up the vibe of this game really well, and also sums up the amount of effort I put in towards beating the game towards the end. I had endeavoured to push on and beat this game, even though it was dragging on longer than I wanted it to. I rescued Velma, Daphne and Fred, learned all the new moves and abilities I could find, explored everything I could, traversed the secret lab, and headed for the finale. I was ready to beat this game and bring it all to an end. And then I was presented with a snack gate demanding 850 Scooby snacks. Why? I've been through so much shit to even get here in the first place. Why would you do that to me? What is behind this gate that could possibly be worth that effort? Needless to say, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not going through all these boring, lame, bastard levels again to find 357 more Scooby snacks. I simply cannot be bothered. Why would I bother? Up until this point, the game has been mediocre at best. What on earth could possibly be on the other side of that gate to warrant going the extra mile? Another shitty boss fight? Who gives a fuck about that? And where would I even go? I don't know where I can find that many Scooby snacks. I collected them whenever I saw them, and I've been through all the locations in the game. Where the hell am I going to find another 357? I can't be asked to look for them. It's just not going to happen. Now I know I've been very negative throughout this whole thing. I think the problem is that I went into this with too high expectations, which caused me to be disappointed with the reality. At the end of the day, Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights is fine. It's not the worst thing in the world, that would probably have to be sparkling water, but it leaves a lot to be desired. The game has a lack of direction, in fact I'm willing to say it has a complete absence of direction. You don't know what the goal is at any point, making it hard to get motivated to explore around. I like the Metroidvania concept, but this game implements it in the most boring way possible. It ticks the boxes, but the end result is underwhelming. The levels, likewise, are usually very boring. There are some cool moments, but most of the gameplay, whether it's level design or boss fights, is quite dull. The presentation is okay, and has a whiff of that Scooby-Doo charm, but it's pretty weak compared to games like Scooby-Doo Unmasked that pull it off a lot better. I don't hate this game. If you need something to get your annoying shitrag kids to shut up for a few hours, this game will do the trick. If you like Scooby-Doo, you'll probably like this game. But probably not as much as just watching Scooby-Doo. Night of 100 Frights feels half-hearted and thrown together, because that's exactly what it is. Unfortunately, we'll never be able to solve the mystery of who was behind the disappearance of whoever it was we were looking for. We've only ended up with more mysteries, like why was this game made? Who thought it was a good idea to make it like this? And most importantly, why in the hell did I play it? Maybe I would have gotten to the end of it if it wasn't for these meddling Scooby snack gates. Oh well, never mind.